Welcome back, everybody. So now we start the next part of our show with the Toronto close-up magician, James Allen. He's live with us in the studio, and like I said, we're going to have simultaneous video that I will prompt you with. So you're going to keep that video on pause right now, and I'll let you know when you need to play. So, James, how long have you been in magic?
Oh, I've lost track. I think it's about 10 years, maybe 12. It snuck into my life and built itself up as a pastime and a hobby, and then eventually a career. It snuck in so gradually I didn't even notice.
How can magic sneak into your life?
It's something you practice, like playing the guitar or knitting or playing sports, and you can do it as something and not take it very seriously. And then you can find yourself doing it more and more and more and more. And I'm at a point now where it's literally become my life.
So it's something that you just naturally were doing, and then it happened, you decided to do it for a career, or what happened?
I have always had an interest in magic, but a very passive one. Like seeing shows on TV, magicians would appear on TV. I remember Penn and Teller appeared on The Muppet Show when I was very small. I thought that was really strange and really cool. Years later, watching other things, I stumbled across a book called How to Play in Traffic, and there was an essay inside by Teller, and he was talking about one trick, which I still do from time to time, that he was practicing at the home of a British magician, Bob Reed, and he was practicing this thing until the small hours of the morning, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and he was practicing with these beat-up tin cups and little balls that he rolled out of aluminum foil from the kitchen, and he did this for a week and a half, and I thought that was really interesting. And because the universe is a really weird place, it turns out that there is a world-famous manufacturer of this particular prop, and their storefront was around the corner from my house.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't even know they were there.
Kismet.
Mm-hmm.
What were the types of tricks that you started with when you were a kid?
Well,
or younger, I shouldn't say.
I was going to say you're giving away how old I may or may not be.
I'm assuming you're 14, right?
Sure. Let's go with that. We'll maintain the illusion. My new show is called The Uncertainty Project, so I'll neither confirm nor deny anything. I focus mostly on sleight of hand. That's what interests me personally the most. It's something I enjoy reading about, researching, practicing, and performing. I really enjoy the thrill of it, because when you do it for people, there's a real sense of having gotten away with something that you don't get if you have a piece of apparatus designed by a master craftsman that has little gears or pulleys or levers or mirrors or something inside. And me personally, I don't get the same thrill from magic that comes from that kind of technology versus magic that comes from my own hands.
Mm-hmm. Is it the pride of the work that you get addicted to, or is there an ego proportionate to it?
I think it shifts, and the balance changes month to month. I remember early on, there's very much an obsession with secrets. I know something you don't, and I'm going to keep you from finding out through my hard work and other things. And ego also enters into it because it gives you a way to become the center of attention in a way that is very easy, not necessarily very healthy. I mean, there are other reasons you might want to be the center of attention, like being an amazing conversationalist or an incredibly interesting person or just a really gorgeous person. But there's something sort of, magic is a sneaky way to become the center of attention. And I think as I grow older, I slowly start to move past that. And really now I work for the beauty, intellectually speaking, that is in these tricks and these concepts and these principles and these processes that unfortunately the audience never gets to see, but I sort of have to now communicate that passion to them. So I think it goes in stages, and you do it for different reasons at different points in your life.
Mm-hmm. From an audience perspective, it's the awe. for me. Like, I'm always in awe of people that have this skill to be able to trick my eye, and my brain and my eye can't figure out anything. And it's just a feeling of awe for, a couple of moments.
It's a wonderful combination of surprise and suspense. And I love the fact that you love it, because there are honestly some people who it makes them very uncomfortable. The plunging you very, very quickly into a situation where you do not know, where you have no explanation, no touch point. It really makes them uncomfortable. So there's different kinds of people and they react to it different ways. But the fact that it's something that you can appreciate and it's a feeling that you can cherish, I think is really wonderful. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to try and show more people. That's one of the things I'm trying to do with my work. This show in particular is not knowing is okay. Not knowing can actually be wonderful, and doubt can be exhilarating.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
In the past, have you worked with rabbits or animals or anything like that?
Oh, who have you been talking to?
Yeah.
3 years ago, I was part of a show put on by Magicana at the Lower Ossington Theatre called Piff, Paff, Poof.
Okay.
And this was a show for children, and I honestly think if you were 7 years old, 6 or 7 years old, you'd be really hard-pressed to find a better magic experience. I mean, this you might sit there and roll your eyes, but for this was the bee's knees, or whatever the kids are saying these days. And the star of Piff Paff Poof was Poof the Magic Rabbit. And so I was entirely off stage for the entire show. No one in the audience saw me. And I was the hair care specialist, and I sort of managed Poof. And it sort of had a Sesame Street type storyline to it where for 60 minutes, Poof is missing. And so the opening of the show is supposed to be Poof's grand entrance. No one can find him. No one knows where he is. And it's so it has magic in it, but it also has that narrative inside it, looking for Poof. And my job, and Poof was a wonderfully charming individual, about that big. And at a certain time, he would make a grand entrance. But in order to do that, he had to climb inside of this box. And much like a cat into a bathtub, Poof wanted to make it very clear to me, I'm not going in that box. I am not going in that box. I am not going in that box. We came to an arrangement eventually. We did about 13 shows of this. And I eventually, for some time, wound up sharing an office with Poof, who, if you can ever share an office with somebody who doesn't talk, I mean, that is like the best thing in the world. So, I mean, we became very, very close and very wonderful. But that's the only time I've really ever worked with a rabbit. I've never done anything with animals in my own work. I don't know if I had that you have to worry about, are they being well cared for? Are they clean? Is someone going to get sick if they pet them? And even something as simple as like confetti. And we're now really afraid that what if somebody slips on that, and we're all going to get in trouble. So I want everything that I do to be particularly safe in that sense, that no one's going to, at a company function or something, there's not going to be anything in the show that anyone could possibly start to sweat over or get nervous about.
Now, you work alone in your show?
I do work alone, and the only time I will, I shouldn't say always, if I'm doing something in a theater, the crew from the theater is extremely important, because it's really hard to produce anything of great quality when you're really truly by yourself. So I always try and have other people around me, but I wouldn't say have an assistant in a sparkly outfit. And I'm really never alone, because my show is filled with the audience, and the audience is part of the show. And if you're doing an hour-long show, I mean, there's 10, 12, 15 people who are coming up at different points. They're actually part of the show. So I don't have assistants. I have sort of partners in the audience.
And they don't know their partners?
Oh, they know their partners. They're getting applause and they're getting attention. They just didn't know it when they left their house.
So every time you go to a magic show, wear clean underwear because you never know.
This is true, and you'll be standing up, so no black shoes with white socks.
I have to ask you, you look quite smart in that suit. Is that what you usually wear for a show?
Oh, this is my outfit for radio.
Okay. And you've got this big red A on your lapel. What is that about? Is that because you're an A-list star, or what is that about?
The A, it stands for several different things, depending on where you want to take it. It stands most prominently for atheist. This one I got from the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science. They have an arm in the UK and an arm in the States. It's the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science. It's pretty clear what they're about. But one of the things they started a few years ago was an out campaign. And it's based on society's experience with the gay community, that if you have a group which is maligned or mistrusted, or people just don't know much about, the best way to get over that is to have one of those people in your life and to get to know them. And I really, really like this because it's not a well-established religious symbol that you recognize from different faiths when people walk down the street. And so usually you will wait a while, get to know me, and at some point you'll ask, oh, and what's the A for? And I really, really like that, because now you've been forced to get to know me, and now you have all of this first-hand information about what I'm like, the kind of person that I am, how we're going to interact, and you get some really wonderful responses. You find, you're an atheist? And to be honest, this is Canada. Most people don't care. But it can really catch some people as a surprise, because for some reason there were lots of people going around for many, many, many years saying that atheists weren't nice people. And so it's part of that campaign to just sort of change that.
Well,
to educate people.
Yes, but not in the blackboard sense of today, boys and girls, we're going to learn about humanism. It's you do it passively just by getting to know the person. To
increase awareness, then.
Exactly.
And then the idea of atheism, is, as I understand it, which I might not be correct, is belief in the tangible.
Oh, this could take up the whole 2 hours, so somebody kick me under the table if you want to go talk about some magic instead. Atheism by itself is a word that means almost nothing at all.
Really?
It would be the equivalent of walking up to somebody at a party and saying, hi, my name is James, and I don't play tennis. At that point, you know almost nothing about me. You only know two things. One, that I don't play tennis, and two, that I don't understand the concept of small talk. And so atheism just means there's one particular belief about gods, goddesses, the supernatural, the divine, that sort of thing, and you say, no, I'm not convinced. And beyond that, you really know nothing about that person. You can be an atheist and a communist. You can be an atheist and a liberal, an atheist and a conservative. You can be an atheist and a rock musician, or a pediatrician, or a stamp collector, or being an atheist by itself. Now, when you take out God and the supernatural, that leaves a void, and the waters come pouring in from all directions. And what do you fill that with? Well, most of us fill it with science. So if we want to know stuff about the early universe, about the history of the planet, about the history of our species, other species, we turn to science for that evidence. If you want to know for something about morality, you turn to philosophers and also to science to a certain extent, and politics. So atheism doesn't tell you much, and what fills that in is usually something that most people call humanism or secular humanism. The idea that we are people, we recognize that our own lives have value, and we look at the other people around us and say, well, for all intents and purposes, they're just like me. We have the same body parts. We have the same DNA, the same flesh, the same blood. If my life has value, their life must have value too. And then you get stuff like the golden rule, don't do unto others that would be reprehensible to yourself. And you really just build this whole system out of morality based on, well, how would I like to be treated?
Right.
I want to be, and it all comes from that.
Now, you're a performer.
Yep.
Have you ever had any shows where people are heckling you, or people are bombed out of their gourd and then they're calling out things or trying to come on stage? Any of that happen?
I have never had anyone try and rush the stage. After a show was done, I had an unfortunate incident of being chased off a stage by a mob of impatient drag queens. That's a story for another day.
Why? Why not a story today?
Okay, fine. It could be no. It really was. It
Randy
really
loves drag
was.
queen stories.
Oh, it really was quite harmless. They were scheduled to use the space after I was, and it was their very first show, and they were extremely nervous. So as soon as I was done, they couldn't wait to get set up. It's just that their enthusiasm bubbled out. It was just, but the headdresses and the outfits and the sequins and sparkles sort of coming at me from the back of the room. I sort of said, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
But I've never really had anyone try and come up on stage. Heckling is not a problem. It's never been a problem for me. I think the reason is because, and I do this on purpose, and I had to work really, really hard for it, I am not out to show people that I am smarter than them. I have particular knowledge and skills that they don't have, just like they have particular knowledge and skills that I don't have. I am not going to go repairing my car. I am not going to go prescribing drugs to people who are ill. I am not going to go writing the great Canadian novel. Everyone has their own specific set of skills. Mine just happens to be showing you all the reasons your brain doesn't work.
Right. Okay.
And so it's all done in a very nurturing and positive and supportive way, making sure that I'm not out to make people look stupid. And everything I say when I'm on stage is planned out very, very carefully. You can, if we go to the break, I will show you the script for the show on the iPad. You can see everything written out word for word, and I will yank out anything that gives the slightest hint that it might make someone feel uncomfortable or stupid, less than careful. One of the ways to do that is something strange. The motto that I live by, and it helps me get better, is it's always my fault.
Right.
So if you do the wrong thing, it's my fault because I didn't explain it properly enough.
So you take personal responsibility.
Take personal responsibility. If you trip while you're on the stage, it's my fault because I didn't offer you my hand when you were coming up the stairs. Because I would have, I should have gone up there and realized, those stairs are 2 inches too high and you are wearing whatever heels you're wearing. I try and always take it back to me. And I am eternally grateful to the people who come up on stage with me, because without them, my show would be boring as hell. And so I have to make sure that they know how much they're appreciated every second of and even the audience in the chairs. If they weren't there, my audience would be boring as hell.
Wow. So we're going to go for a commercial break, and when we come back, James is going to do some close-up magic for us. You're listening to Beyond the Mundane on Reality Radio 101.com.
Back to the show where we have Master Magician James Allen here. Welcome.
It's great to be here.
Now, I have to ask, I couldn't help but notice as you were warming up for some of the tricks that you're going to be doing, so to speak, you have this deck of cards and you were very masterfully shuffling these cards. And it appeared to me that you have very soft hands. Very tough hands in a way, but very soft hands. And is it true that people that do magic, that magicians are good with their hands?
Yes.
Okay. And are you good with your hands?
I think that's up for you to decide.
Well, okay, let's see what you got.
Well, I'll start in your hands then. I will slide these over to you.
Okay.
And I'll try my best because I know not everyone has access to the video. So we have a full pack of 53 playing cards sitting on the table in front of her. Yeah. And I want you to pick up the entire pile.
Just wait a second. Okay, so now I want you to press play.
There.
Okay, I'm going to
and I realize your microphone is going to get in the way in the moment,
right.
But spread the cards out so the faces are towards you so you can see lots of different cards and I can't. So that's face down so no one can see anything unless you're lying on your back. So pick up the whole thing. And like the world's largest bridge hand. That's sort of the feel we're going for. I don't know up so that I can...
he can't see.
What do you want me to do?
He doesn't want to see the face of the cards.
Okay.
And we've met before, so I might have influenced you. So spread like the world, literally spread them out like they were the world's biggest bridge hand.
When I look at them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going to look through.
Yeah.
And for everyone who can't see this, they are all different.
Right. Yeah.
And as you said before, we were mixing them. You're going to look through. You're going to take out one you like that suits your personal fancy. I have no idea what these words mean. I just like saying them on air.
Right.
You've got the one you want. I'll take the rest. This is really interesting with 2 microphones in the way. And on your card in very large letters with this pen, if you would please sign your name.
Okay.
And below that, print your email address.
Well.
I sell it to the spam people when I get home. It's how I pay for my shoes. Is she actually printing her email address?
Probably. She's probably hoping for a date.
I have no idea what to say now. That's never happened before. And let us know when you're done.
Done.
I will take the pen because it's pretty.
I'm surprised she didn't comment on the thickness of the pen.
Oh dear, place it back in the middle. So I've got to reach. And there is a camera here, so if anyone wants to see. And of course, I could go back later and watch the video and know what card you chose. Do you consider yourself an honest woman?
Depends on who's asking.
It's an interesting piece of honesty,
Yes.
especially on the air.
Yes.
Do you believe honestly that I could have known in advance, before today, before we met, the name of the card you were going to choose to take out?
Probably not.
Probably not. So to say that before I came here, before I left Toronto and got on the 401, oh God, don't remind me, I placed another card from a different pack inside my wallet. And somehow, against all probability, that card would also be the Ace of Spades.
Okay, let's see.
The card that was in my wallet. Now, do you think that's possible?
It's entirely possible if
No!
you're a master magician.
No! This is important. This is the kind of thing that I'm trying to get across to people.
Anything's possible.
No!
No, it's not possible.
It's logically inconsistent.
Yeah, it's not.
If I could predict the future, I would not be here doing card tricks.
Right.
You would have the lottery numbers.
There has to be something else going on. Like the one with your email address on it.
Good.
Is she always
Awesome.
this difficult?
Yes, she is.
Awesome.
Makes sense to me. Okay.
Awesome.
So I will leave that here on the table so you'll have a reminder not to give your email address to lunatics like me.
Okay.
And maybe we'll come back to it later. We'll see if it inherits any kind of like weird magical properties or something.
Ooh, I hope so. Yeah, for sure.
So you guys can press pause on that video now and we'll continue having a little conversation through the radio process. So what I want to know is about the Uncertainty Project.
Oh, I will tell you as much as I can, but
Yeah,
the
don't
title...
give anything away.
Oh, no. The title is sort of, it started out as simply not knowing what was going to happen next. And that seems to have been a major theme that that runs through my life. I left... I finished grade 11 having a very firm idea of what I was going to study in university. I wound up in university studying not the thing that I was planning on studying. I left university not having any idea what I was going to do and had to wait for about 4 days before being offered a job and doing magic or magic-related things. And it has been a major theme in my life of really having no idea what's going to happen next, and it's built into the fabric of the show. So there are lots of risks, lots of things that are left up for the audience to decide, and their decisions change the direction of the show, even so far as to what tricks actually happen and which ones don't. So it's entirely possible that if you came to the first show on Wednesday and the second show on Thursday, that you wouldn't see the same show. I mean, the show will be largely the same, but the exact contents will be different and certainly will take different twists and different turns.
Now, I was noticing that on all of the PR for the show, you actually have a director.
Yes.
So what is a director's job in a magic show?
The director's job is in the process of, well, in a magic show particularly because I'm writing all of this myself and I'm also the playwright, and because I have to make the magic work, I'm also the choreographer, and because props and technique and everything comes together, I'm also the set designer. The director is basically your spokesperson, the audience's spokesperson. They have to look at everything and say, what does the audience see? And he keeps me straight and says, no, I can't understand what's going on here. You have to make it more clear. You have to explain this better. I cannot see what's going on here. You have to stand in such a way this looks uninteresting. I realize that this has to be this way in order for the trick to work. Or, for example, in order for this card to be in my wallet, there are certain steps that we have to go through. She has to actually take it out. She has to actually sign it. And depending on the people and the situations, it's not necessarily the most interesting thing in the world. So I realize these moments are necessary for the narrative, but we have to pump them up. And so he represents the audience and make sure that, I'm always going to have the time of my life. I'm on stage. I'm the center of attention. But by having a director, it forces me to always have the audience in the back of my mind and make sure that the show we're delivering is the best thing we possibly can.
So that's really the way to do it then, is to make sure that someone is an eyes and ears of what the audience would
yes,
get out of it.
The hardest thing about magic is you constantly have to live two realities at once. There's what is going on from my point of view, and there's what's going on from your point of view. And I have to actually have both of those movies running in my head at the same time. I have to know what you see, and I have to know what you think and what you believe based on what you see, and I have to make sure that what I'm doing matches that. And so it's all magic is based on that really, really difficult multitasking of really running two streams of consciousness at once.
Now, before the show, how long do you prepare for the show on a given day?
For this show, I've been preparing for this show for 2 years.
Yeah.
Ever since I finished my last show, which was called, can I say damn on the air?
Yes, you can say whatever you want.
My last show was called Lies, Damn Lies, and Magic Tricks. And we did that several times in 2012 at different theater festivals and a couple of times in 2013 at different venues. And as soon as I finished my first run of that, I started a new notebook of things that, would have been amazing to have in that show, but theater festivals, they have time constraints. So you hit 60 minutes, they turn the lights on, they open the doors, they turn off all your music. You cannot go over. So things that we could not fit because of time, things that we could not fit because the theme didn't properly tie in, even though the pieces by themselves I was really pleased with. And I started gathering new things. At the same time, I was a huge physics nut in high school. I was a teenager and I actually owned the Feynman Lectures on Physics, which are these giant bricks, these red, huge, heavy books. I mean, you could throw them and kill someone. They're beautiful. And they're so wonderful because it's basic physics as taught by a Nobel Prize winner. And you never get to see that almost anywhere. Like if you start learning to play hockey when you're 4 years old, you're learning from a community hockey coach. You're probably learning from someone's father or someone's uncle. But to have something like that taught. And so I was rekindling my interest in physics, quantum mechanics, relativity, and all of that about how we see the world and how the world really has this whole other level beneath it is playing into the show. So the show, your question was how long did I get ready? Like how long does it take me to pack this thing, right? So the entire show to set up, it's interesting. After everything's written and after everything's practiced, I think the entire show is ready to go in about 25 minutes.
Wow.
So you arrive at the theater or wherever it is a few hours before, and you check out everything and make sure everything's in working order, so to speak, and where you're going to stand and the mic and all this kind of stuff. Is that what you do?
Yep. The Witchwood Theater, it's not that big, so there won't be a microphone. We have lots of sound. We have multimedia. Right. So I have a 15-foot, 20-foot screen behind me, which is I sort of think of it like the CNN crawl. And I got the idea. I was having a conversation with someone. You were asking how old I was, and this will give it away if anyone's ready to get out a calculator. I was in grade 11 when September 11th happened. And one of the things we did every day at lunch was we went to someone's house and we watched CNN for the updates. And that was my introduction to the concept of the news crawl. And so I thought, wouldn't that be wonderful, the Uncertainty Project, to actually have a crawl of extra information, quotes about famous philosophers. And so if I mention someone like Niels Bohr or Albert Einstein or Richard Feynman, that if you really care, you can look up at the screen and find out how to spell their name, and oh, he's a professor at so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So after the show, are you energized or are you exhausted?
Usually I am energized, and it does awful things to your sleep schedule. So if this show is at 8 p.m., done by 9:30, so sorry, then I will probably not be in bed until 2 a.m. It's a feeling unlike any other. I hope maybe the audience will be lying awake in bed until 2 a.m. because they're trying to figure out what's going on.
So it's kind of a high that you get after?
Yes.
Like an energy high.
Yeah,
Like
an energy. It's a
hyperactive.
good clean high. I mean,
Right, yeah.
Yes, most of my blood is Starbucks at this point.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really good clean high.
Mm-hmm. On a regular basis, when you're not doing theme shows that are one-offs, like several days in a row, cast at a theater, what do you do for magic as a living?
I perform for anyone who will have me, really. It's split. You mentioned before that I was a close-up magician, and that is about half of my work. And the other half is performing magic. I wouldn't necessarily call it stage, only because the things that you would there aren't that many things left that I would seriously call stages in Toronto and surrounding. So if you're doing something in an office party, you might be in a hotel and you might be on a riser that's 12 inches off the ground, but there still might be 100 people or 200 people there. So lots of corporate functions, private things. I've been having a lot of fun lately with and this really, I don't have any control over it. This just happens to be what people are doing for their events and what people are interested in, doing unusual things in people's homes. And I really like the challenge of taking a room that's not normally a place where you would have a performance, and organizing the furniture and having these really nice, really organic shows where, and I've done large parts of the shows where people are sitting on the arms of chairs, on the arms of sofas, and couples are sitting in each other's laps, and it's not rows of chairs like in a theater.
Mm-hmm. Couples are sitting on each other's laps. That's an unusual show for sure.
No, if you're in someone's house and you're trying to squeeze 5 people on the sofa.
So you're doing a show with how many people in a house?
It could be 10, could be 50.
So can you tell us about one of your memorable, unusual shows that you had in a house?
I opened for Cher once.
Okay.
It wasn't actually Cher.
Cher, one of the drag queens that you talked about?
No,
okay.
It was... I didn't check if it was actually a woman. I probably should
have.
But no, it was, and someone had done this at their home, and it was his wife's. If I get this year wrong, I'm going to get an angry email when I get home. It was his wife's 40th birthday, and so he invited everyone over to the house, and I did a show that lasted for about 30 minutes for the guests, and as I came off, they had a Cher impersonator, and part of his gift to her was, I forget whether it was a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was in Vegas, and included in there were these tickets to go see Cher.
Nice.
Oh, wow. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that would have been a great evening for sure.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I would have given up my fee for a trip to Las Vegas to see Cher.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, so my first experience with you was through Carnival Diablo.
Yes.
And we tend to cross paths working with Carnival Diablo. And I was so happy to see Close Up Magic again. I
didn't do any close up at Carnival. There's an in between.
Yeah,
and
it's in between. Yeah,
we're in between because we haven't. No, Carnival Diablo. It was there were 50 people in that room. There's an in between size of show, and unfortunately, we haven't come up with a new word for it since the 1800s, and so we still call it parlor.
Oh,
even
parlor,
though no one has a parlor in their house.
Yeah.
That would have been right though. That was like a parlor, wasn't it?
That's exactly what it was, and I forget the name of the building we were in. But there is that in-between space, and I really wish we could come up with a new name for it, because it certainly makes describing the shows that you do to an audience or a client difficult. I do parlor magic. What the hell is that? Do we all have to dress up and put on like feathered hats and take out inks and quills and pens and play charades afterwards? No, parlor magic is anything from an audience of 15 people to maybe 75 people. And so the props can still be relatively small, but you're doing, and really it has to do with geometry. If close-up magic is something where everyone is standing around and everyone can see the same thing, and you can look up and you can look down. So for example, if I put this deck of cards here on the table, you can all see it. If we put 25 people in this room, which would actually be a good magic trick in itself now that I think about it.
Yeah.
If we put 25 people in this room, only the first 6 people would actually be able to see the deck of cards. I would have to lift them up in the air like this before people could start seeing them. And so parlor magic is magic where you look horizontally from my eyes to your eyes, and close-up magic is where we look from sort of your eyes to the props or your eyes to the table. Or it's really, really difficult, and I have a lot of problems. Not that it's anyone, I wouldn't say problems, challenges, because most places where the people want you to perform are set up for one of 2 things. Either they want to see music, in which case it rarely matters if you can actually see the musicians, or you want to see some kind of dance or movement-based thing, in which case it doesn't really matter if you can see the people's faces, and so you have really high stages, and you have a perfect view of their shoes, which is nice if they have fabulous shoes. But it's very difficult to find a really nice space. We actually found one quite recently. We've been doing a show there twice a week for the past few months. But it's called The Cage in Toronto, and they have a beautiful room called the Crimson Lounge with a stage there, and they have tables, and you actually do an entire show which is dinner theater style, not like this one at the Witchwood Theater, but to have material that people can watch in that sort of head-on fashion.
So what days do you guys do the Cage?
I do every Tuesday and Sunday night at 7, and it's my project, my baby. It's something that I took over from other people, including James Biss, who's the director of the show. He started it back in 2001 with another partner of his, and he went to work on some other projects. And he said, "Would you like to take this over?" And I said, "Okay." I also have the other recurring theme in my life is biting off more than I can chew.
You're young enough.
Well, when opportunity knocks, you have to take it, right?
Yes. Going back to uncertainty, one of the books that changed my life was The Black Swan.
Right.
Not the thing with Natalie Portman in it. But Black Swan by Nassim Taleb, which was a business book, a statistics book, but talked about things that happen very, very often. And so one of the things you have to try and do, and try and do it in magic as well, is you want to always be leaving the door open for that wonderful, amazing experience. And lottery's not a good example because lottery is sort of gambling, and
right.
It's biased against you. But there are certain kinds of sort of options in the stock trades. So you want to you put out a lot of the same thing when you would write funding proposals or want to try and get a job. You send out a lot of resumes, knowing that most of them are just going to go into the void and go nowhere. But the reason you send out a lot of resumes is you want the one that's going to be your dream job to just land on the desk, and every couple times you actually have to go out and look, it might be that. And so I'm always agreeing to work on projects even if I have no idea where they're going or what's going to happen with it. And that's led me to work on, these theater shows. It's led me to work on book projects with other magician publishing projects. I just came off of a collaboration. I was the general manager for a theater festival. It was absolutely nothing to do with magic, but they asked if I wanted to do it, and I said, okay, fine. And I was doing all my work behind the scenes. They worshiped me like a god because I could make spreadsheets. And I sort of tried to say, it's not that difficult, but okay, fine.
Yeah, you who might not be a Luddite.
But
to me.
But it turned out, and as I'm there, I'm sitting at the Red Sandcastle Theatre where they're hosting events for 3 days straight, and they're hosting panels and workshops. And even though this had absolutely nothing to do with magic on the surface, I'm spending days learning and watching and studying the technique of some very, very talented actors, very, very talented marketers, just really talented and intelligent people. And I never would have had that experience if I just said, theater, what are you talking about? I'm a magician.
Right.
So, I mean, I always want the door to be open, and it seems to have worked.
So let's talk about the Witchwood Theatre.
Yep.
Its location
I love the Witchwood Theatre. It's in Toronto. It's at St. Clair and Christie, and if you have lived in Toronto for a long time, you will recognize the building instantly. Giant structure, and what they used to do was when they needed to repair streetcars, they would actually drive the streetcars in off of Christie inside and repair them inside the building. So that's the size of this building, is you can drive streetcars into it. And for the last several years, it's been a beautiful arts complex. So it has artist studios. They do all kinds of community programming, arts programming, children's programming. But out of that, they carved enough space for a 100-seat theater, which is absolutely gorgeous. And it is the perfect venue for magic because it has tiered seating. And I did a show there for myself in 2012. I brought in a performer from Israel who performed there in 2011. Another performer last year from Spain to do shows there. And there is not, even in the far back corner, you have a perfect view of everything because the seats are tiered, raked. And there's not a bad seat in the house. And so it's right near St. Clair and Christie. It's literally a 2-minute walk hopping off the streetcar on St. Clair if you want to go there, or that area has just parking hidden everywhere.
And the dates of the show? It
is June 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st, which is a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and it's in June.
And the times?
8 p.m. all the way through.
And they can order tickets on the Uncertainty Project website?
And I wasn't sure which one I wanted, so I got both. There's that theme again, uncertainty. It's either theuncertaintyproject.com or uncertaintyproject.com, and all the information is there. Maps to the theater, information about the show. If you're listening to this on radio and want to know what the heck I look like, my picture is there.
Yeah, you're all over it.
I am. And have you seen the poster?
Yes, I have.
With that weird sort of...
It's like a double image poster with that thing in the back.
Yeah, that thing most people don't know. That's actually we snuck him. That's why he snuck out of rehab. That's Rob Ford wearing lots of makeup.
You really got connections, eh?
Oh yeah, and yeah. I mean he was also in a bit of a. That's why he's semi-transparent.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Very smart.
The other thing that I wanted to ask was, on your website, you were talking about a situation with the cat and the cat writing code, and I really didn't get it, and I was trying.
Oh, you know the old story about an infinite number of monkeys on an infinite number of typewriters will eventually write all the works of Shakespeare?
Yes.
So that's how we created the website. That's how we created the code for our website. And I mean this entirely seriously. We were having a production meeting at my director's house. That's his cat. His name is Who. Charming creature. The more expensive your pants are, the more he rubs up against you. He knows. He has this impeccable sense for fashion. And so we left a laptop out on the table, and we went outside, and we just let him crawl around, and he was tapping, and we came back, and here we had this perfectly well-formed HTML code, and we loaded it up online, and that became the website for the Uncertainty Project. So that was done entirely by pure, random, uncertain chance. That was just a cat walking on a keyboard. Oh. Okay, fine. We had to add the photos later, and the poster has some Photoshop in it, but
yeah.
Makes for a good story anyway.
It is a good story.
Yeah, for sure.
It is a good story.
Yeah.
So we're going to go off to a commercial break, and when we come back, James will don us with a little bit more magic.
Fantastic.
You're listening to Beyond the Mundane on realityradio101.com.
We're talking to hypnotist James Allen, and he's got fast hands, and he's got a very smooth voice, I must say, to mesmerize people with the magic. So welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Although you're doing a little bit of magic yourself. You've made me into a hypnotist over the space of a commercial break.
Yes.
That's really impressive.
Well, you're you entice people and sort of get them to sort of be in a trance when your music is, when you're magic.
And
is
now
happening.
I'm a musician. See, this is
and
the problem I
music
have.
of the mind, for sure. So are you going to show us another trick?
I think I will. Now, Randy, is it best to do it with you, or are you the one that sort of has to...
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Try it with Elsie.
You can do it with me.
This is a test of strength, but not physical strength, more of a strength of will and a strength of determination, concentration.
Okay,
Although
so-
there is physical strength involved. It could also be a test of stubbornness.
Okay, so we want to press play on that video again now.
All right, so would you hold out your hand, and I will give you this.
Thank you.
You know what that is.
A toonie?
Yes. And if you want to look at the other side, you can. It's not like the thing in Batman where it has heads on both sides.
Okay.
Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is very, very slowly close your hand and start to squeeze that coin. And I'm going to promise you two things. First, that I'm going to sneak that coin out of your hand. When it happens, you will not feel it. You will say I did it by magic. And you will say I did it because I'm a clever bastard.
That's right.
Now, in order to make this more of an experiment, and I don't want you to think that you were deceived, you didn't know what to look for, let's not do this once. Let's do this twice. And the more you concentrate, the more you squeeze. The real sign that something's going on here is you can see how the knuckles are actually changing color, becoming white. This is good. Now, the one thing we do need to know is if we find the coin later on, so if it should be in your pocket or in your shoe or in your bag or somewhere, I don't know, we have to recognize it as the same coin. Did you happen to note the date on the coin?
No, I didn't.
May we? And that's once.
Oh.
I've gotten the coin out once. You're not
Abracadabra.
impressed.
That's
I'm
the
getting,
magic trick.
for those of you who are only listening, I'm getting death stares right now. Let's
Yeah.
try it one more time. Now, we haven't been drinking here.
Yeah.
Squeeze tight.
Yeah.
Squeeze tightly.
Uh-huh.
Now, we haven't been drinking here on the show, so I'm going to go out on a limb, although it is a Friday afternoon. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you are too smart to fall for the same trick twice.
Okay.
Okay, I'm getting a look from Randy. There's a 98% chance that you're too smart to fall for the same trick
Yeah,
twice.
that's about it. Yeah.
So stay right there and squeeze tighter, and I'm going to confuse you. May I confuse you? Say yes.
Sure.
Good. I'm going to confuse you with this. So what is on the back of your hand right now is not a toonie.
Right.
It's actually a British coin. It's very, very old. That's the king. He's quite dead, so this trick won't bother him. And it's what we used to pass for a penny. We don't even have regular pennies anymore, but this is freaking huge. And what it's done is it's actually taken your mind away from what I wanted you to be thinking of before, which was the toonie. I remember I said this was a test of will. And so you are squeezing the toonie in your hand very, very tight, but you're not concentrating on it.
Right.
It's not really there in your mind, which is enough with 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
I'm
so
holding
now
the tune.
you have a toonie in your hand and the gold coin's gone, or the pence is gone.
Did you feel it?
No, nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
No.
Come on, something had to change.
It didn't feel like it.
Very, very slowly, open your hand.
Yeah, but then you're going to take the coin away from me again. Oh my goodness, now I have the penny. I didn't feel a change at all.
Come on, you had to feel
No,
some
I
change.
I didn't.
This is crap. You
Look
have
at
to
my
have
fingers.
felt
Look at
some
the
change
dents in
happen.
them. Look at the dents in my fingers.
You're saying you
So
didn't feel
you
a
take
change.
that. You hold this. Take this. Squeeze tight. Squeeze. Perfect. But you see, she's good at this. May I?
Oh, I'm not good at it.
No. This is. I lied. The tighter you squeeze, the easier it is. Open your hand.
Now you got it.
And I will keep those. And that will... remember what I said about after a show? I know you've got marks in your hands. Thank you for squeezing and for taking it so seriously. It's more fun that way. But we were talking about the high that you get from performing and how it usually keeps me up after a show until 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you're still tossing and turning and wondering about that, 1:45, feel free to give me a call, and I won't
Where
tell
will
you
they
how it's done.
find you?
Well, my phone number is on my website, so you can
Okay.
go to theuncertaintyproject.com and learn about the new show while you're there.
Okay, I can leave a message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can just imagine all the harassing phone calls from our audience now.
Yeah.
If they buy tickets to the show, it's not harassment, it's
Right.
commerce.
Well, if you guys want to buy tickets to the Uncertainty Project, James has given us a wonderful coupon code for our listeners only. Our listeners are going to get 30% off if in the coupon code they print the word mundane. Mundane. So there's your opportunity to get a really great price on a ticket for the show. And the dates for the Uncertainty Project?
They are June 18th to the 21st. That's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The 30% off code will work for any of those dates. And we've also checked it works for both uppercase, lowercase. It doesn't matter, just mundane.
Great. So that's what we're going to have for you. And thank you so much for our audience, on behalf of our audience, to get a chance to come and see you at a discounted price. What I wanted to talk to you about is something extracurricular that you've been involved in.
Yeah, I want to hear about that too.
And I was wondering if you study karate.
I did.
And would you explain to me if it has any bearing on your ability to do your magic well?
That's a really interesting question. I don't, they don't overlap directly, but because they're both based on the idea of practice and some kind of coordination, dexterity, I think one certainly helps the other. I certainly find it an advantage for even just the simple act of being on stage for an hour and talking to people and having to do so in a pretty loud way. Just the idea that I used to spend several hours on a weekday afternoon or a Saturday morning teaching classes, and that I was very good at shouting very loudly for long periods of time, just by practice and by abusing my vocal cords. That certainly did help, and so the ability to be loud and be heard is certainly a huge asset for me, and just the ability to have lots of energy on stage for
Yeah, I guess
an hour.
stamina. Huh? Yeah.
And you've just set Randy going again.
Stamina.
Tell me more.
No, it was a wonderful experience. I did karate for somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 years. I started when I was 9. We never actually checked what exactly I was a 4th degree black belt at some point. I was one of the younger ones in Canada at the time. And it was a really rewarding experience, both physically and psychologically. Gave me a chance when I was very, very young to be in a leadership position, teaching people. Definitely, I remember the time I spent teaching children is extremely valuable to me when learning magic, because it gave me a really firm foundation in the idea that people's brains work differently. And the most important thing when you're a teacher, and even more important when you're a magician, is to realize that what's obvious to me is not what's obvious to you. And so that's really, really an essential part of things, to be able to keep in mind that we don't all have access to the same information, and you have to explain that thing going on. Go ahead.
So you learned, if you will, mind control in a way through your martial arts, to put it nicely. Mind control.
It was a lot of intimidation.
Yeah.
My secret was I was taller than the 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. No, it has very little to do with mind control. It has to do with understanding the state of mind of another person. And if I can, if I can understand how your brain works, which is mostly the way that my brain works, just we have access to different information, then that unlocks all kinds of possibilities. I certainly cannot say to you, and we had teachers that thought this might actually work. You could see it in the way they phrase things. I can't say to you, be amazed now.
Right.
That doesn't work. So you have to sort of come at things differently and in a very non-linear way.
So you mentioned that the Uncertainty Project is a stage show.
Yes.
With an audience. But the other show that you do, did you say that it's like dinner theater?
It is like dinner theater. If we were in the 1800s and we were wearing cravats and coats with tails, we would have called it parlor. But the room is designed to seat 40 people. Mm-hmm. And so we do a show there twice a week. We have so much fun, and we are inviting guests all the time. So I'm always there because I'm the organizer and I'm the host. But we have different performers. We've had performers in from Calgary. We had a performer come in and do sort of a shortened version of his one-man show from Holland. And it's actually much easier than that. The Dutch have impeccable English. We had a performer in from France last month, and we've had people in from Calgary and in from the States. Canadian Magicians of the Year, and it's a wonderful melting pot of magic.
And is the show at the Cage Abracadabra?
Okay, so I will try and explain this because I'm not even sure if I understand the story myself. Many, many years ago, before I was even doing magic, there was one special event that ran for about 10 days called the Magical Arts Festival. And that was a group of magicians flooding downtown Toronto, mostly on the King Street area, with magic performances, the same way you might have a fringe festival, or an art crawl, or something like that. And they kept that alive with a weekly show that they called Friday Night Magic, which was a really wonderful concept, difficult for marketing purposes, because when you go to try and do productions on other days of the week, Friday Night Magic doesn't work so well, and also you try and register the domain name, you discover that FridayNightMagic.com is a dating site. So we changed the name when I took it over, and it became Abracadabra, and I'm still not entirely sure whether the show is called Abracadabra or the company is called Abracadabra, or it's a tenuous thing. So we call the show Magic at the Cage. You can tell I have great skill with titles. Our previous show was called Magic at the Winchester. So,
well, if it works, why not, right?
Yes, it's certainly very easy to remind people where you were. I remember we had in the same month a show at the Winchester and a show at the Witchwood Barns. We did have someone go to the wrong venue once. But we do try our best. So Abracadabra has sort of become my production company, and I will use that name anytime I am putting on events for the public. And if you're going to do something with me at a private event or for a company, then your show is just with James Allen, because at Abracadabra, anything can happen. I mean, Danny Ortiz coming in from Spain, doing a one-man show in broken English of some of the most amazing card tricks you've ever seen. Ossie Wynn from Israel, now living in New York, who is turning your mind completely upside down. Really, really good English, just a really funny accent. Vincent Hadan from France, different comedy performers. We have a wonderful artist, Paul Weilbaum, who does old school vaudeville style material, which is absolutely beautiful. We had Eugene Berger in from Chicago, who did a very special show for us, which I can't even begin to describe. It was sort of a mix of magic and talking to ghosts. So I use that anytime there are other people involved, just so that people don't start confusing me with, the person who talks to ghosts or the fat Spanish guy. I'm allowed to call him that. I have his permission. It's on his business card. It's not on his business card, but he will, as he will tell you, he's fat.
Is there a huge market for magic?
It is definitely there, and it's definitely growing. I am constantly being bombarded with the same stories. and it could be a mass media something. So someone has seen someone like David Blaine or Chris Angel or The Prestige or Catch Me If You Can, or they have had, I mean, there's certainly thousands and probably millions of children who had a magician who performed at their school, who performed at their birthday party, a friend's birthday party, who are into that sort of thing. What we're trying to do at this point in time is we're really trying to grow the market for magic for grown-ups. Because there really is this stigma that magic is either something for children or that magic is something which is out to trick you. And I call a lot of what I do tricks really because I just don't have a better word for it. And I think illusions is pretentious and everything else is just kind of weird. But just to make sure that we can build these experiences that are based on not tricking people or being silly like we'd be if we were performing for 6-year-olds, but on having fun and experiencing wonder.
Why are illusions pretentious?
It's a word with a lot of syllables.
Other than that?
It's, well, if you're Canadian, you remember there was a very particular way, and I'm not going to try and do it, there's a very particular way that the great Doug Henning said the word illusion. I mean, inside of our industry, illusion has a very specific meaning. An illusion is a very large piece of magic that you do on stage because it requires a large prop. So something on the scale of sawing a woman in half or making a car or a motorcycle appear. And very often that will use something like an illusion, something like an optical illusion or something involving mirrors. But illusion for us just means really, really, really big trick. And so I don't like to call myself an illusionist because it confuses the magicians. And on a philosophical level, I don't like the term illusions because an illusion is something which is not real. And everything that I do for you is. Because you put your name on that playing card. And that playing card was in my wallet. There was nothing illusory about that.
Right.
Now, there are alternate realities and alternate perspectives going on, but nothing that I did in that sense was illusory. No one here is taking hallucinogenic drugs. No one here is being hypnotized into believing something that didn't happen. You open your hand, you had one coin at the beginning, you had a different coin at the end. So there's really nothing that I do in that sense which I would want to call an illusion or that I would want people to call illusions. And at the end of the day, I really don't care. I want to be James Allen. That's what I really want to be. And I think magician is the best descriptor for what I do. And it's just unfortunate and accident of history that the first thing that you think of when you think of magician is someone who wears a top hat and coattails and pulls a rabbit out and has a row of handkerchiefs up his sleeve and is extremely inept at talking to women.
Right. Do you travel a lot through Ontario?
Ontario, absolutely. And I mean, this is Canada. We're a culture where we live and where we work doesn't necessarily have anything to do with each other. So from Niagara Falls to Sudbury to Ottawa to Kingston to Toronto. I mean, I try and stay as close to Toronto as I possibly can just for my own sanity. There's only so many podcasts that you can listen to in the car. But I am all over the place. I always find it's nice meeting people with a slightly different perspective, and you wouldn't think that going from Toronto to Barrie or from Kingston to Oshawa would change that much. But there really is. Every place has its own particular feel, its own particular community, and it's nice to get away from home.
Right. Now, before you do your show, do you have certain foods you won't eat, or you will eat, or you won't have a meal before? What happens?
This is this is turning into therapy time. I have often, in the last year in particular, partly because we've started doing these evening shows on such a regular basis, and you do experience those highs and you don't want to go to bed. I find myself working and practicing and designing things and researching things very, very late at night, and then I'll sleep in because I'm self-employed and I can. And so what normal person's workday would start at 9 o'clock, mine is now shifted 3 or 4 or 5 hours later into the day. So I'm starting later and working much, much later. And it's happened many, many times, not that many, that at the end of the show, I'll realize I feel odd. Oh yeah, that's right. I was working and I forgot to have breakfast and I forgot to have lunch and I forgot to have dinner. No, it doesn't bother me to eat before a show. I won't eat anything particularly heavy. I learned from the martial arts, because if you have to go to a competition, they will call you up when it's your time and you have to be ready to go at exactly that moment. So, that's the interesting thing about this profession, is that you are very much trapped by the schedules of other people. It's very, very difficult because someone has to rent a large venue or they have to gather together lots of people. I don't ever really have the option of saying, I'm not really feeling well, can we do this on Tuesday instead? I don't even have the option of saying, I'm not really feeling well, can we wait 20 minutes?
Right.
So for personal just safety, I will stick to things that I know are safe. So if I'm on the road, I will eat a lot of Subway because I know exactly what I'm getting. I know exactly how long it's going to take. I know exactly how much it's going to cost. And I know exactly, and I know that my stomach has no problem with it. And it has, if I actually cared, I'd probably know the calories, but I don't. So whatever. I don't know. I'm certainly not superstitious. I don't have particular rituals that I go through before the show. I have a practical ritual of leaving the house, of sort of taking everything out of its case and putting everything back in one piece at a time, just so I can make sure it's all there. Because I did have it happen early on that you would arrive somewhere and not have everything you need. And now you said, okay, I've got 20 minutes to find a convenience store. I need some raw eggs.
Right.
And a melon.
A melon?
Oh, you haven't seen that version of the show. That's right.
No,
so
I
haven't. I may do the show again at some future date, so I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you ever see my show Lies, Damn Lies, and Magic Tricks, and I know that there are bootleg copies of it floating around on the internet, which is actually kind of interesting. It really makes me feel kind of special because I certainly didn't plan for them to get there. But a very important piece of that show is the melon with the knife sticking out of it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's great.
So we're going to go for a station break, and we'll come back with James doing another trick for us.
Nothing with knives, though.
No. Oh, I don't know. I'd like a sword.
Yeah,
I think I want a sword. So
Very
you're
good.
listening to Beyond the Mundane on realityradio101.com.
Welcome back to the show. We've been mesmerized by magician James Allen. He's been showing us some of his moves in the break, and moves extraordinaire. So you're going to show us another trick, right? But you don't call it trick?
No, I absolutely do call them trick. I think it
us.
takes a certain amount of guts to call it a trick.
Right.
And I don't have a better... I've tried to find other things. Someone gave me the idea once that you could call them pieces, like pieces of music. And I kind of like that. But it's not specific enough to magic, and it's confusing with music. So I think tricks is still the best word for them.
So we'll go with that.
We'll go with that.
Right.
And I will give these back to you because you're our resident skeptic and our doubter. And you're going to shuffle them up, and you're going to keep shuffling them until you're happy.
And you want to play now on
How much
the video?
time do we have left?
I was going to say, if you ever need filler, this is a great way to do it. Just sort
Okay.
of zoom in on this and let me know when you're happy.
She's never happy.
Or when I'm done for now?
Or when you're done shuffling. Sure, let's go with that.
Okay, I'm done
now
shuffling.
put everything face up on the table so we can see.
Face up this
Yeah.
time? Okay.
There we go. What I was going to ask you to do is I was actually going to ask you to cut the cards.
And leave them face up?
Yeah. Because now we have witnesses on the camera, and complete the cut.
What do you mean by complete the cut?
The part that was on the bottom goes on top. Sorry, this is... and do it a second time because I want you to make sure that you actually turn up different cards every time. And keep going. And you can actually do this as many times as you want. I mean, you went from like a 10 to a 2 to a 7, and you can keep doing it until you're happy, or this can be the one where we stop.
It.
Okay. And I will try and do this and spread these cards out on the table so that you can see each and every single one. And I realize there's a microphone in the way. Actually, you know what? This might be easier for you. Is it easier for you to put your finger over here like this, or is it better if Randy does it?
I can put my finger anywhere you want.
Like this,
yeah, I bet.
There. So what you're going to do, and don't stretch too far, is you're going to...
Don't strain yourself now.
Is you're going to move that finger slowly towards the other side, but at some point you're just going to stop moving.
Okay. My boob's in the way.
Yours in the way. It's up to you. One way, other way.
This is good. I'm just where I'm going to be.
Well, you're moving like that because you sort of started over here and now you're over here. So make up your mind. And do you want her to move left? Do you want her to move right? What's going on?
Right.
My right or your right?
Okay.
And do you want to go back the other way, or is this what's going on?
Now you want me to go this way?
Yeah. Okay.
There. You're happy? All right. So now we're happy.
We're happy.
Because you're the one that has to be happy, because otherwise I'm going to try and go straight down.
It's so nice when a man says that, isn't it?
There. And I can't tell if that's the 9 or the 10, but slide it out.
It's the 9.
It's the 9. It's the 9 is the one you
Yeah.
want. Okay. So now, that will be the target card. And what I want you to do is take the rest of these.
Okay.
There is one card which matches this almost exactly, and that is the 9 of spades. It's the other black 9. I want you to take out that card, and I will show you a miracle.
A miracle!
I know.
You want
A
me to take out
miracle!
the 9 of spades?
Yes. For those of you who are listening at home and want to know what's really going on, we're making her do all the shuffling and all the cutting. During the commercial break, she was really trying to wrestle herself some free tickets, so now we're making her do all the work. So, the 9 of spades when you're ready. I'm getting silence, which is actually kind of interesting.
Well, she got to go through 50 cards.
This is a trick, right?
You're having trouble?
Yeah, I'm having trouble.
Oh, because remember, before I came here...
There's no 9 of spades here.
Before I came here, before I left Toronto, I took a card out, well, from the same pack, placed it inside my wallet, and that card was the 9 of spades.
Wow.
But just to go for broke, can you take out the other 9s, the 9 of diamonds and the 9 of hearts?
Okay, I will.
You might want to speed this up for her. They're inside the card box.
Oh, they're in here?
I don't know if you can...
There is no 9.
Inside the card box. Go ahead.
Stunning.
No.
Well,
There you go.
he was reading your mind before he came here.
Yes, for sure.
Or something.
Something like that.
That's because you always go 9, 9, 9. That's
The
from
hard
the
part was
German
guessing how many
audience.
times she was
Okay.
going to change her mind from one card to a different
We
card to a
do.
different card.
We do have a big Berlin beat here, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yes, so there you go. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was wonderful. So, this year in June, you've got the big show, The Uncertainty Project. On your weekly basis, you have Magic at the Cage.
Yep.
And is the Magic at the Cage info on the Uncertainty Project website?
If you wanted to find out about Magic at the Cage, I think the fastest way is probably just to Google Magic at the Cage, because all of that is easy to spell, or you could go to its website, abracadabra.com, and it's sort of the natural way to smash the words abracadabra and cabaret together. And if you can get that right on your first try, then you can use the code SECRETS to get yourself some discounted tickets for that show.
Well, there you go. I'll put the 2 links up on our Facebook page.
Oh, that's cheating.
I won't give them the codes. They have to listen for the codes.
No, the code was free. It's the spelling that's hard.
Can you tell us about maybe a couple of your more favorite shows that you had? Like where did those shows occur? Were they in the north? Were they in Toronto?
What excites me the most I think, is putting magic in situations where magic does not belong. I had the wonderful opportunity a few years ago to perform as the opening act for Garbage.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
They were at the Phoenix, they were in Toronto, and it was something to do with how elaborate their technical setup was that they specifically wanted someone going on before them that wasn't going to add in any extra audio cables to the mix. So that was my job, and I have never performed on a stage where the audience was held back by security barricades. So I actually had 2 security people down the stage below me, and the nearest audience member was about 6 feet away. So a really interesting experience, really challenging experience, but really a lot of fun. And I've done all sorts of strange stuff. I have performed inside supermarkets when I was
Doing what?
Magic. Someone actually thought it would be an interesting idea to. You asked me about my favorite shows. I think I'm telling you about the weirdest shows.
Yeah.
Which,
Weird and favorite to us is probably the same thing.
Yeah.
it could be the same word. Someone, I think, and this is more than one company. This is not just a one-off thing. Thought it'd be a wonderful idea to accost their customers while they're going grocery shopping and to do magic for them. And I think for a lot of them, they had a lot of fun. And I think I just, once you sort of suss out who is... They're there to get their milk and their Cheerios and their hamburger buns, and that's it. And they need to get out of there because they're on a deadline. They've got to get home and make dinner, and leave those people alone. And once you do that, you're pretty safe. I'm trying to think of what else that was particularly interesting. One of my favorite shows of all time happened to be I'll tell you the name of the streets off of the air because those are funny too. I was in Mississauga. And it was New Year's Eve, and when you work on statutory holidays, you typically charge a little bit extra, and it was the end of the season, and this was all done very, very last minute, and I already had a New Year's Eve party that I had RSVP'd to, I was going to go to as a guest, so I was going to have to change my schedule if I was going to go take this engagement, and so I just tossed out a number which was twice my normal fee. And they said, yes. And I said, oh, okay, fine. I'll take that. And I showed up, and it's New Year's Eve, and I am probably as dressed up as I could possibly be. I don't own a tuxedo, but the next step down from that. So nice 3-piece suit. I mean, really gone up. And I show up, and it's a pajama party.
All right.
So these are the sorts of adventures that I have. I did the Hamilton Fringe. I was very fortunate. We did a bit of a demonstration for them of some predicting the future, which wound up on the front page of their newspaper. That was incredibly exciting. And if I'm going to say favorite shows, Carnival Diablo, the Festival of Wonders, out in Carleton Place, and I can't remember the year, although it's, I believe, on my blog. Sorry, I'm dying in your studio.
I think it was about 4 years ago now.
3 or 4 years, I know. But that set is gorgeous.
Oh, you got a trick stuck in your throat, didn't you?
Cough it up now.
That was one of the
cards.
best experiences that I ever had as a performer, that was for sure. To be in a place with an anniversary of such an elaborate carnival, and to be with in the presence of a lot of old entertainers that were coming out to honor the show. That was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We really got to touch base with some really interesting people.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. You enlightened us with your stories from some of your events you've been at, and it's been great to see your magic tricks for sure.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. I wish you all the best in your show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'm so looking forward to the show. And I will post everything, and just remember, if you want a 30% off discount on the Uncertainty Project, you put in the coupon code Mundane, MUNDANE. I will not be posting the code on the website. You have to listen to get it. I will post the websites. And what was the at the cage code?
Magic at the Cage and abracadabra.com, and if you use the code SECRETS for that show, something nice will happen.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much for all your time with us today, James. And I love the close-up magic, as I always do.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You always make me feel like a kid every time I get to be in your presence. You've been listening to Beyond the Mundane at realityradio101.com.